Amazing ladies and gentlemen, I'm Brando from Brand Expedia, and then we have here Jordan from
Hayes.
And nothing, this is going to be a super laid back kind of podcast style. We're here in Dubai. We both moved here a while ago, and I love it. Are you loving Dubai?
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think for today is going to be focused a lot on both, how we're helping e-commerce brands scale, what we're doing, but also look at behind the scenes at structure, and just how everything is set up.
Yeah, we thought of, since we're both agency owners, just to give you guys some context. We both own an e-commerce agency, and we help brand owners. You mostly work with brands, right? Not really drop shipping, maybe also some drop shipping companies or brands, but
Yep.
It's mostly D2C brands in the US, Canada, Europe, UK, Australia, New Zealand. And so what we thought of doing in this podcast is kind of like going through topics on service delivery. We're going to discuss 3 or 4 important major topics, but kind of to give you some value and perspective on, the agency side, but also the e-commerce side at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So I guess let's start off by talking about the importance of team, right? We all talk about results, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be a very results-driven. These are, all results-driven topics. So we're going to talk about how we're able to generate, the multiple 7 figures, 8 figures. That's all great, but I would want to take maybe a step back and understand what's happening behind the scenes with the team, how to grow a team to get the results for the clients, right? And for the agency as well, right? So I guess, what do you think from purely like a delivery standpoint? How do you feel like results and team align?
I think the team is everything. And I think you need to have the right team members in the right positions to deliver each of the things that you need to scale. So just for, to give you an example with my agency and my structure, we have a creative team that are focused around everything from coming up with creative ideas all the way to actually editing the creatives that are ready for us to launch. So it just means that the whole process for us to get creative and test creative is already there. And then we also have another team for running the ads themselves, right? So doing all the media buying, the ad setup, the optimizations, making the decisions, making sure that, the creatives that we're testing are working and what to do as next steps.
Especially in the e-com industry.
Yeah.
Especially.
And whether you're working with an agency or whether you have an in-house team or you're doing it yourself, you just need to, I guess, understand the different. I like to think of them in terms of like compartments. So creative, media buying, and then you're like, what happens after you send someone away from the platform, right? That's how I tend to think about it. I think everything is intertwined as well. Like if you have multiple people, they need to be talking to each other, right? And that's a big thing.
There needs to be a streamlined process. But I think a really, really important topic that people don't actually understand, and I say this maybe for the newbies, the people that are starting out with their agency, and it's understandable if this is like the approach that you want to take, and they try to hire fast. They just get somebody to do the service for them, and then they don't understand why they're not able to get the client results, right? And therefore, at the same time, if we get, at least the way that we structure the deals, if we get the client's results, our retainer increases as well. So people just think, okay, let me just charge maybe $3,000 a month, and let me just find a contractor for $500 a month. But then they don't realize that $500 per month contract that they signed up with a random media buyer that they found on a Facebook group is not going to actually get them the result.
Yeah.
So this is one topic. The second topic is, and this is probably, it's really important whenever I hire for my company, Brandlux Media. This is probably one of the first criteria that I look like, and it's looking for experience and track record rather than looking for the potential. And like hiring for potential is probably the best thing, the cheapest thing that you can do it in the starting phases, right? Especially when you have more time than money, because you have more time to train, give them the SOPs. Maybe also invest into courses so that they can be more, informed on what they're actually doing. But when you get to a point where you can afford to actually attract talent that has not only potential but also experience and track record, then that's when your company is going to really change, and that's when you're able to get to set the 7 or 8 multiple 8 figures for clients in terms of results.
Yeah.
And that's how it also affects your agency revenue at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I agree with you, and I think it's an important point you mentioned there with time and money, right? Like I think, yeah, if you have more time to actually implement a training process, but that training process needs to be very good, and also understand that people learn through experience.
Yeah.
So you can't just show them how to run ads and then all of a sudden expect them to manage, a dozen ad accounts or whatever.
And to add one very quick thing in terms of experience,
Yeah.
when you fuck it up, you don't forget,
Yeah.
right? And if you never fucked it up, like I heard a quote, I don't remember from who it was, but you don't learn from your success, you learn from your failures.
Yeah.
And if you don't, even if you're not successful, because if you're starting out, you don't, you're just starting out, but you haven't had the opportunity to fail or fuck up an ad account, or increase the budget by $1,000 instead of $10 because you just fucked it up, right? All these things matter, and they're just experience. And so if you hire somebody that did not go through these things, then they're gonna fail the first time with you, which is not a problem, right? But
it's on your watch and you have to expect it, right? And I think I like to think of it in both ways. I think you need the people on your team who have the experience, but then that gives you the room to hire people with potential as well, who can come in and learn the ropes from the people with experience. So, if you're thinking the media buying side, right? You need someone who, it's not their first rodeo. Like they've done this before, they know the nuances with the ad account, like they know what works and what doesn't to a certain extent. And I think for creative, it's a little bit different. Just to give you, something from my experience is that if you're looking for someone to do your, come up with ideas for creatives to work with content creators, like one thing that I found is if you look for people who are already UGC creators, who are already doing content for brands, and you can then turn them into a creative strategist, that is something that actually works really well because they already have a good eye for what good content looks like. They understand frameworks, they understand how to get attention and keep attention. And they're used to working with brands, and they know the experience on the creator side. So yes, you need to train them on, maybe it's more like direct response principles or the specific frameworks, but from what I've found, it's actually a very seamless transition. So yeah, the role of like creative strategist is quite newer for like the e-com D2C space, but I think there's a big opportunity for like UGC creators to become creative strategists. And
it's funny that you mentioned that because I recently hired Lana. She's amazing. She's our UGC production specialist, strategist. She's essentially a creative director, right? And she was exactly a UGC person. I think she did it for a couple of years, 3 years. She was, she went into the trenches of actually getting a product, filming, putting the angle, the lighting, right? All that stuff is really, really important. And now what we actually do is that whenever a client comes on board, we offer 2 or 3 free UGC videos because the client just sends her the product and she is able to do something with it, right? Because she has that background. And whenever she looks out for other potential UGC creators, she knows exactly what to look at or what to look for, which is, fundamental. But let's maybe transition this to maybe building a team in-house, right, for e-commerce founders. We spoke about the agency and all, but some e-commerce founders maybe don't want to hire an agency yet, or maybe because they're not ready, because maybe they think it's less expensive or more expensive. What do you think what do you think are the benefits of having maybe an in-house or just outsource it to an agency?
Yeah, I think if you're looking to bring it in-house, rather than like building out a whole team, I would suggest maybe finding like someone who is more full stack in terms of their ability. So one person that can focus on creative media buying, landing pages, optimization, like they know the whole funnel. Otherwise it can get quite expensive pretty quickly. And also if you want to bring that person in-house to the brand, you're likely, going to be paying a little bit more for that person with that skill set. So
And very quick follow-up question, just as a reflection, it just came up. When do you think, I recently did a YouTube video actually where I distribute kind of the e-commerce journey into 4 different stages,
Yeah.
right? From 0 to 100, 100 to 250,
Mm-hmm.
250 to 500, and 500 to $1 million a month, right? So, and I kind of described the sequence of events, when to hire, but I was curious to know your opinion. Like, when do you think people, like brand owners, should start hiring? And what should be the first hire?
I think at the early stages, you should always, I mean, from my point of view, like sometimes I recommend brands who speak to me, maybe they're too early to maybe work with an agency, is also to work with a freelancer, right? Like you don't have to work with an agency. You don't have to hire someone in-house. You can just work with someone on a freelance basis. It's probably going to be more cost effective at the beginning, but you're probably going to have to make some sacrifices in terms of what that person can do. But it's going to help you get to a certain stage. I actually recommend also, like, if you can run your ads yourself as a founder to get to 30K, 50K a month in revenue, do that, because you will save on costs. It's going to get you off the ground, but you'll also learn the ropes yourself, so that when it does come to the point of hiring an agency or an in-house person or freelancer or whatever, you already know, like, you know if they're bullshitting you or not, right? Because you know the metrics, you know your business inside out. Yeah.
And I've seen my best clients are exactly the clients that know what they're talking about. They have done it. They grew themselves from 0 to 50, 0 to 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a real number. A lot of startup owners ask me, what is the number? What revenue point do I need to start high? Like, is there a specific number? No, there's no specific number in anything that you do. You just need to understand what works for you. But I've just noticed that if you start your journey and you learn and do your mistakes and learn media buying, learn creative work, learn how to start hiring other people, if you start that yourself, it's going to be way easier to grow a team and grow a business.
Yeah.
On the same side, like, how can I explain this? It's like you don't want to rely on another agency to start your business for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst decision you can make. What if the agency just leaves and decides to leave you from one day to another? You have no marketing. And that is something that I faced this year. Very big client. They just purely relied on us. We decided to let them go for one way or from one reason or another. I'm not going to explain why, but they were left with nobody to run their marketing, and they had no idea what they were doing. And so that's a very bad situation to be in. And if I were to recommend somebody that's starting up, like, learn the shit, learn how to do your media buying. The marketing and sales and persuasion is literally the principle of every type of business, whether it's a service, product, infoproduct, it doesn't matter. You need to learn those foundations before you do anything else.
Yeah. And like you're gonna make a better decision when it comes to hiring an agency or in-house people as well, because you know the right questions, you know the right answers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you ever think like a company, maybe they get too big for their agency, like when they get to like 1 million a month stage?
I think you mean it's too expensive to have an agency?
Yeah, or maybe they're thinking of, they've grown to a certain point and they're thinking of hiring an in-house team now.
I think one thing, there's a big misconception behind, having an agency is way more expensive than having an internal team.
Yeah.
But it's actually not. And whenever you're hiring and you're outsourcing, or you're hiring in-house, you're dealing with people that have completely different cultures, maybe, right? Maybe somebody's from New York, somebody's from California, somebody's from Europe. And so you basically have to do what we do for you, right? Which is still good. It's still something that you maybe want to do, but it's also very expensive. And then maybe you also have to pay for benefits, and it really becomes expensive, and your responsibilities just really go up, which is not bad. Everybody can make their own decisions. A lot of companies have, hire in-house. But I think these are kind of the decisions and the questions that you have to ask yourself. I think one more thing is that it typically doesn't work out whenever maybe you're making big numbers to work with an agency. If you feel like that agency is not like integrated from a cultural standpoint with your company. If it is, it's way easier to grow and establish a collaboration. So
Yeah.
you can't really notice whether it's in-house, outsourced, because it's a perfect integration. So
Yeah.
I just say choose the right people, whether it's a company to do it for you, a person to do it for you. It doesn't really matter as long as you work with the right individuals.
Yeah. I think just to add to that as well, I think as long as the incentives are aligned and finding the right partner, and just speaking purely agencies at the moment, if you find the right partner, the right team, the right culture fit, and then you align the incentives to make sure that, like, if they help you grow, then they also win when you win. And making sure that as you grow, you remain profitable.
Yeah.
Then that is the partnership is set up for success, because I think the way that we both run our agencies is that we focus on those longer term partnerships, and we value, like, we don't want to have 100 clients. We want to have a smaller number of clients that we can focus on and that we can really scale and grow. To be able to do that, it requires focus and attention from the team. So that's just one thing that I would add there.
Yeah. And guess what? We do it with our clients, but we also do it with our team members.
Yeah.
So if we get more clients, or the client has an extra performance fee, we also distribute it. At least I do this. This is my strategy and approach. I also distribute it with the team, especially the person that has the most responsibilities, my head of performance, right? Shout out to Matan. But guess what? If you want the right people in your team, you need to pay for it. Like, people don't understand that you need to pay. You pay what you get for. There's a reason why that saying is a saying today, right? Yeah. You get what you pay for. And so if you want to attract talent, you need to pay for the talent.
Yeah.
Even for us, even for hiring a head of performance, a media buyer, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Agency or e-commerce brand. Cool. Let's shift the topic and talk about, maybe, I've written here 2024 marketing approach to get results and crush your competition, right? So what do you think from, like, it can be a general perspective or maybe something specific that you think of, like, what do you think is the approach to get results in e-commerce, right? From an agency standpoint, from an e-commerce standpoint in 2024, what do you think is the overall process?
Yeah, I think one thing that we're focusing on as an agency this year with our clients is becoming, like, e-commerce, like, even more e-commerce experts. Is, like, I think holistic is the right word.
Yeah.
And I think you need to understand the ins and outs of an e-commerce business, the financials, the, like, product sourcing, fulfillment, like, all the things that are, like, they're not sexy, but you need to understand them to run the business and be profitable. So yeah, that's one thing that we're focusing even more on this year, because the creative is important, the media buying is important, the offer is important, of course, but you need to understand, like, when are we profitable when we acquire customers? What is our CPA for that? And if we scale the ad spend, is that CPA the same, or does it need to shift? So very, very important is, like, we're just, thinking holistically. What are your thoughts on that?
I 1000% agree. And it's like your accounting, right? It's like your taxes. It's the same thing with your financials. And it should be the same thing with knowing the numbers. For example, there's a number that a lot of companies just don't have an idea on, even if they're, like, 10 years in business, and it's lifetime value of a customer. Like, how much is a customer actually worth? Because if you know exactly what a customer is worth, you know exactly what you can use to acquire, how much you can spend to acquire the customer.
Yep.
And if I have to answer the question around the topic, what is the approach in 2024? I would say 1000% focus on optimizing your sales process so that you can introduce more products, upsell, downsell, cross-sell, have a very strong retention marketing, have very strong offers. Because if your sales process is unbeatable, you will beat first of all, advertising becomes way easier.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking
costs
about
are going up as well.
Yeah. Your ad costs are going up, right? So wake up call. It's 2024. There's inflation. If you think today is hard, just think 20 years from now. Unless, of course, there's gonna be a new platform like TikTok, right, coming up, and maybe for 6 months you're gonna have low cost. But overall, the cost to acquire a customer is always going up.
Yeah.
Just look at Facebook back in 2015. right? The $5 CPAs are not there anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody's talking about ROAS. But what we do at the agencies, at least for me, and you can tell me what you think, but we try to take a step back. We say, fuck the ad accounts for just a second, right? Let's spend 80% of our time actually taking 2 steps back, looking at your sales process. How much is your customer spending? At what rate are they converting? What can we do to add an extra 4 or 5% of revenue from here? What about over here? And so if you add all these things together, it's like a puzzle, right? There's multiple pieces. And when you have a complete puzzle, then that's when advertising becomes a lot more scalable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like what you said, Jordan, you need to understand your numbers. If you don't know your lifetime value, if you don't know your average order value, if you don't know all these things, it's really hard. And by the way, lifetime value, do it for 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Calculate it for 6 months, calculate it for 12 months, because guess what? It doesn't make sense to calculate a lifetime value for 12 months if you want to acquire customers, because maybe you don't have the cash flow for it.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's just 3 months that you need to calculate. Maybe it's 6, right? So you need to understand these things. But these are the foundations.
Yeah. I think to add to that as well, first of all, the e-commerce business model is a leaky bucket, right? You acquire customers, but not all those customers are going to come back and repurchase. So it's all about, as you're saying, looking at the LTV and looking at how can we get more people to come back and spend more money with us, purchase more often, and introducing new products, upsells, cross-sells, subscription models are a different one. If you can get a customer onto a subscription model with your, where they can, and subscription models don't have to be your typical, subscribe and save 10% and you get it delivered every month. It could be, if you subscribe, you get access to certain features that you wouldn't get otherwise, or maybe a specific community with a brand, or you can get creative with a subscription model, and it doesn't have to be on a monthly cadence. It can be every 3 months, 4 months that you build a customer. The important thing is that you have their commitment. And I've seen firsthand, when you have a subscription model and you can get customers into a subscription, the revenue that you start generating month over month compounds every single month, because you're acquiring new customers. But unlike, let's say 80% of those customers never coming back and purchasing from you again, now you can convert a good percentage of them into subscribers.
Even if it's 10%, even if it's 7%, it's still 1,000% worth. But also, let's understand that by adding a subscription model to your business, it automatically increases your enterprise value immediately.
Yep.
Like if you're looking to sell to a private equity firm, that's actually one of the first things that they look for: predictability, consistency, and revenue. If you don't have a predictable way, not only to acquire customers, but to retain them, whether it's introducing new products or subscription models, whether it's building a community, there's so many ways to do this. We're going to talk about community later, so let's save that for later. But that's what they look for.
Yeah.
And so adding subscription I always recommend it.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Anything about this topic that we want to discuss, or? Yeah, the next topic is technically internal team systems to get results. How are we structuring our team, our SOPs to actually get the results? Mm-hmm. What are, first of all, do you have any other thoughts about marketing approaches that we want to discuss? Maybe some ideas?
I think just the last thing I'll mention is, paid advertising as it is very linear, right? You spend X, you get Y. You increase the spend, you still get Y. It's likely different than what it was at a lower spend, but still very linear. There's other things that I think you should focus on in terms of what are your customers saying about the biggest brands in the world. They also grow through word of mouth marketing, and it's harder to measure and track, but it's happening, and it's either happening for you or against you.
Yeah.
So a lot of that comes down to the quality of the product and the experience, because people will openly talk about that with friends, family, social media.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
People talk.
Yeah. But if it's a negative experience, that's gonna that actually happens at a larger and faster rate, because people are more likely to talk about their negative experiences than positive experiences.
Yeah.
So really focus on the customer experience to make sure that if you think of the experiences that you had, maybe you went to like a 5-star hotel, a resort, or an amazing restaurant, and you had a great experience, and you were so compelled to write a review. Think about that experience and think about what made it so great, and try to implement some of the same things in your own business.
100%.
Treat every customer like really, really well. So yeah, that's the last thing I'll add. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I wanted to add one more thing regarding the topic about lifetime value and acquisition. Like, first of all, like, talking about acquisition, it's actually not hard to run ads. There's SOPs, right? Soon enough, there's also going to be automations, right? With AI, there's already, I'm not sure the tool that you mentioned last time.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Arcads.
Yeah, Arcads, whatever. There's so many systems and AI tools that will eventually do it for you. So we're shifting from a media buying era to purely a creative era, and focusing more on the back end things. But I wanted to say, like, if you look at companies like, I don't know, you don't have to even talk about e-commerce, like Salesforce, these big monsters, they're probably willing to spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to acquire just one customer because of just how powerful their product is.
Yeah.
Right.
They also likely know that person, if they do, once they experience a product, are going to refer X number of people, right? Which is going to lead to this much more in value for us.
Yeah. Same with Shopify. Like, Shopify is willing to pay $200, $100. I'm not sure exactly what the commission is on a free trial, right? So you get commission without even the customer paying, because they know that they're going to stick around for years, right? So it's all about that perspective. And at the end of the day, the companies that grow the most and that have the biggest acquisitions are the companies that are able to acquire a customer by spending more than their competitors.
Yeah.
So if I spend 70, right, and I'm still profitable, and you spend 50, right, I'm going to win over you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to spend more, I'm going to acquire more customers, right? So this is the game.
Yep.
But so moving on, I guess, to systems, processes. Why do we want to talk about systems and processes? Like, why is this important, and what do we mean by, just to give some context, both to agency people and e-commerce?
Yeah, I think with anything, you can have all the building blocks, but if you don't have a system and a process to put those building blocks in the right place and do things at the right time and keep track of what's happening everywhere, then it's just going to be a mess, and you're not going to actually learn from the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think with this topic, it's very, very important that you have structured systems and processes set up to reduce margin for error, and also learning as well, right? Learning from the things you're doing, the creative you're testing. We tested this landing page, it didn't work. Keep track of that and understand why. So yeah, I guess question for you is, when it comes to systems and processes, what would you recommend brand owners, agency owners set up in terms of service delivery, just to keep track of everything and make sure everything's organized?
I mean, the way that we track everything, I mean, if you're a brand owner, it's easier because you get to have one brand. If you're an agency owner, you get to have 10, 20, 50, 100 clients, depending on how you want to grow your company, right? Yep. And it gets, like, growing an e-commerce business, generating revenue from an e-commerce business is actually way easier compared to an agency, because agency is like a people business. And when you have people, you need systems, processes. So either way, whatever you have, an agency or an e-commerce brand, I like to track everything into Asana. Mm-hmm. There's Trello, there's Asana, there's so many different tools, but it's just a project management tool that you can use, whether you have an agency, an in-house team. Once again, e-com or agency owners, the same thing. But it allows you to send notifications whenever you had, maybe add a client task, or a task for a UGC creator, or a task for a video editor, a graphic designer, a media buyer. Mm-hmm. And so they stack. You can put timelines, and you can actually have a very systematic way to understand what are you doing, when is a deadline, or deadlines being missed, or are they on time, right? What is the progress of each product, or not product, but project, I guess. And kind of just tracking it from that perspective is really going to be helpful. And what do you use for, like, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Having some sort of project management tool, a lot of them work in the same way. We use Notion internally for our company. But ultimately, it's all about whatever works for you in terms of organization.
As long as
Yeah.
you track, as long as
Yeah.
you track. And also we were having a conversation before during lunch. We were talking about how do we actually track what is a winning concept,
Yeah.
right? Because you can test all you want. Like, first of all, people don't test, and that's the problem. So you should start testing. But once you start testing, and once you understand that testing is really important for the growth of your brand, how are you actually going to be able to understand, okay, why is this working? Why is this not working? But also how to track what is working and track what is not working. It can be very, very confusing. So this was kind of the conversation we were having, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of moving parts, and especially as you begin to increase ad spend and you need more creative and you want to test more, like it becomes a mess very, very quickly. And just to give you an example, like with ad creative, there's infinite variations you can test, right? And where do you start? But let's say you're testing creative, different angles, different UGC videos, statics. What we like to do is we like to keep track of what's working and create an internal feedback loop. So you use the data from ad creative. So let's just say it's videos, you're looking at CTR, you're of course looking at CPA, ROAS, but you're also looking at hook rate, hold rate, engagement of the video, where are people dropping off? Based on that data, you want to use that to create iterations. So how do we take this video and, identify if it was a performer, how do we replicate it? Or if it didn't perform, maybe the hook rate was really good, but the hold rate is just not there. So now we know where to focus, right? And now we can create an iteration where we improve that.
Imagine if you create an ad knowing that it has 7 steps, right? The storyboard, the type of UGC creator, the type of angle, the hook rate. Imagine if you put all these proven concepts together and you scale that, right?
Yeah.
And then you get that and you continue iterating, because it's like testing is like numbers, they're infinite, right? There's infinite ways and concepts that you can test for a product, for a service. It doesn't matter, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So imagine if you could put all these things together. And so it's a really interesting topic because it's a really hard topic. It's really hard to keep track of all these things, right?
Yeah, otherwise you just end up throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, and you end up spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
I think it's also important, if you test something and it doesn't work, maybe it doesn't make sense to focus on improving that right now. Maybe you want to test a different angle, but keep it in the backlog for the future. Don't just discard it and never come back to it. And again, that organized process is allowing you to keep track of those things.
And guess what? Sometimes think strategically. Some ideas and strategies, for some reason, will only work in a period of the year.
Yeah.
Like they will work from January to March, and from October to December. Like, so keep track of everything. And imagine if you can have like 3 to 4 strategies that you can launch every single month, because you know that for that month and the next 2 months, they're proven to work.
Yeah.
For that, whether it's a product, an approach, a testing strategy, a creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But if you can keep track of all these things, then that's how you're gonna win. I always like to say, you beat other companies, your competition, from a creative perspective, not because you're good media buyers or right, because you can track data and you can move strategically forward based on the decisions and the mistakes that you've made in the past, right?
Yeah. I'll give you an analogy as well, like how I like to think about creative. I like to think of it in terms of let's say you're a salesman, right? Your job as a salesman, you need to close deals commission only, right? You have a sales CRM, a pipeline, right? Because you want to know, like, okay, this is my survival. Like, where are the deals at?
Yeah.
What is my deal flow? Which ones are near closing? I like to think of creative in the same way. So we have a creative pipeline, and we have a backlog of creative ideas that we want to test. We have creatives that we're currently waiting on content from content creators.
Yeah.
We have briefs that are being written. We have creatives that are currently being edited but not ready yet. And it's also really good, just like a salesman, if your pipeline dries up, you run out of money, right? With your creatives, you don't want your creative pipeline to dry up.
Same exact thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Having the pipeline there allows you to also see, okay, what do we have coming down the turnpipe, right? Because all this creative right now that we're testing is great, but what about 2 months from now? So
exactly. And I wanted to add one thing, is that when companies want to go from, if your creative infrastructure is here and you're spending 50K a month and you want to spend 100K a month, for some reason brands, agents, even agencies, they think that they can support 100K per month spend with a 50K per month creative input. And it does not work like this. In fact, at the agency, what we do is that if we want to go to 100, our creative infrastructure goes to 120, 150. We always have a discrepancy between our target and even surplus, right? We want more than what we can handle, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's having like understanding when to do that as well. Like a lot of times you can just like, okay, we're increasing spend and it's great, but sooner or later you're going to hit a wall and you're going to see a plateau and you're going to have to decrease spend. So I think it's really important to also be aware, right? Like, okay, we're increasing spend now. Let's look at our creative. Like, let's plan ahead so that we can support more creative.
Yeah. Question for you. And this is something that I receive especially on my Discord, maybe for people that don't have too much of a budget.
Yeah.
What is your and I can tell you what I think as well, but like what is your approach and thought process when it comes to creative and investing into creatives when you're maybe starting out, whether you're doing drop shipping and you're like going all in on one product, or whether you have a brand and you're sure you want to go all in on the brand. And I always receive the question, how much should I invest into creative? Like, do I need to spend 100 for every XYZ, or like, what is your idea on that? Just to give more clarity.
Yeah, I think, spending on content creators to deliver content can add up very, very quickly. And what I like to suggest to our clients, and even the clients that are spending a lot more, is like, you don't need a ton of content creators. You don't need like 20 different content creators at the same time. What we like to find at the beginning, you just need one, right? And that could even be yourself as the founder,
your sister, your brother, whatever.
Yeah. Or you just get like a really passionate customer who happens to be good in front of camera, and you pay them with product, right? Or affiliate commission or something. You can really get creative with the structure, and even as you scale, you need more content output. It doesn't mean you need more content creators, and you can start to negotiate. Let's say you work with 3 core content creators, and maybe you have 2 or 3 extras just in case something happens to those creators. With those creators, you can also start to structure better deals with more volume, right? So let's say, okay, instead of 5 videos, we need 10 videos this month.
Exactly.
Let's do a better rate for that increase.
And that's what we do at our agencies, actually. One of the principal reasons why brands decide to work with us is not only because we know what we're doing, but because we literally have deal structures with multiple hundreds of content creators. And we get charged probably 20-30% less than the market price, which is always an advantage. But that's only because we've established and actually took the time to establish a collaboration with these people, right?
Yeah, 100%. What are your thoughts on getting content from customers versus working with content creators externally?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a question that they ask me a lot, especially on my YouTube channel. And my thought process is very simple. Professionals, once again, to what we were telling before, you get what you pay for, right? If you send a free product, you will get a free video that 90% of the time sucks because there's no incentive. There's there's literally no incentive. That's the word. It's free, right? Even like a free product, sure, you get a free product, but you get a lot of free products, right? There needs to be an incentive. And at the same time, there doesn't only need to be an incentive, but you need to make sure that you work with people that have a portfolio and that have experience. Same thing, hire for experience, not potential or unexperienced people. It's the same thing with UGC creators. So I've done a test personally with multiple brands. We've tested sending the product for free in exchange for 4 or 5 videos or whatever. Almost every single time, the content creators that we pay outperform just because of, I don't know, motivation, experience. They just do more for us.
Yeah.
And those videos typically work a lot better. But if you're on a budget, maybe pay 1 or 2 creators. Just find your brother, your mother, your sister, yourself, free content creators. Just do as much as you can. And if you want to be strategic with budget, do a lot of repurposing. And ask for B-rolls. Because B-roll, for those of you who don't know, is just footage that is just literally footage of the video of your product like maybe a demo on packaging, right? Once you have a lot of B-roll and it takes one person to do B-roll, you could do it yourself. You can put all these B-roll together, and maybe you can also add AI voiceovers, right? You can test. 11 Labs is a great AI tool. Now, literally, nowadays, there's no excuse. Maybe 5 years ago, right? Sure, it's expensive, but nowadays, like you can pay for $200, you can probably get like, I don't know, 20 UGC videos. And there's really no excuse.
I think as well, you need to have a budget for your creative, because it can very quickly get out of hand. And
my God.
You haven't realized how much you've spent on creative until you do your books at the end of the month.
Exactly.
So, yeah, having a budget, but also being able to track ROI from your creative, right? If we spent $1,000 on content this month, is that helping us, or like is our performance the same, right? So, also very, very important to think about.
And I really advise to go all in creatives when you have like a proven methodology, or not methodology, but structure or process. Like an angle is like a winner, or a product is a winner. Then say good luck to your budget and just go all in to UGC, or UGC or creatives or whatever type of content, because you know that you're investing into something that 1000% gives you an ROI, right? So that's when I would go in. Let's move on, since we're going out of time here, but let's move on to the idea of, the topic. What I have written here is the new way to retain and increase lifetime value in 2024. And we talked about this before, and it's building community, right? Building community. And so what is your take on building community in 2024? And why do you think that building a community is actually going to add value to your customers, add value to your business? How is it going to help you from a general perspective?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, the e-commerce business model is a leaky bucket. A really strong returning customer rate, if you don't have a subscription model in your business, is 30-35%. And that's if you're doing email marketing as well. So building a community of customers who are in front of you and you can come back to every time, launch new products, involve them in building your brand, pitch, like get them involved in the types of products you want them to they want to see, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on
It's
on
absolutely like this, and it goes back to what we were saying before. You need to find and be strategic in going after strategies that are about building community, because when you build a community, you do two things. You add value to your current customer base, because guess what? If we need to choose between a brand that just sells a product and a brand that has a product and also has a community of like-minded people, like the customer, maybe similar traits and look and feels and conversations that they have, what are you going to choose? The one with or without community? In fact, it's also a free community, so you don't have to charge for a community. So it's an added value. It's like a bonus, added value to your product or service, which will incentivize people to buy your product over others. And at the same time, it's a retention funnel. It's a way for you to launch new products. If tomorrow I want to launch a complete new product and test and receive feedback, I can do it, sure, through my email list, but what's gonna work better, an email list or a community of warm people that engage and speak every single day, right? You can do polls, you can upsell, you can cross-sell, you can also maybe make a paid community if it makes sense, right? Maybe you have two different communities. Either way, community will allow you to increase the value for your customer, increase your lifetime value, and you will be able to spend more on the front end. Same conversation that we had before, because you're building a community.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the platform that brands should use to host the community?
Yeah, so I know that the companies, I've worked with a lot of companies like supplements, health companies. They like to do like Facebook groups, right? It also depends where you're, like if you have a crypto offer, go in Discord, right? So it really depends where your customers are hanging out. But nowadays there's cool, right? From Alex Ramosi and Sam Ovens. I love those dudes. They're building a great product. I think you also have a community on School, right?
Correct.
I'm looking to build my community in School. I already have one in Discord, but I'm thinking and debating whether to go from Discord to School. But either way, that's a great platform. I think it's $100 a month. You can have courses, you can have discussion posts.
Yeah.
It's really, really engaging. And there's also something called games, something that they're doing, school games, right?
Yeah, you have leaderboards within the group.
Which engages people to commit to the actual group and engage and speak, right?
Yeah, like you can have winners for the leaderboard as well. Like if leaderboards are based on engagement, so comments, posting.
Yeah.
So the whole premise of a community is the engagement of the users. And if you're able to reward that in itself, it's going to lead to a much more engaged, lively community. And the important thing as well is that you want the community to be run by the users and not like you shouldn't have, like as a brand owner, you shouldn't have to be in the community, encouraging engagement. It should happen more organically. It's a big
And guess
thing.
what? If you're first or top 3 in the leaderboard, maybe you get a free product.
Exactly.
Maybe you get something. So there's always going to be, it does not matter product or service. This is why we combined the conversation today. E-commerce, brand owners, and agency owners, because it doesn't matter. The principles are exactly the same. So yeah, I think this is the direction that businesses really need to take. And I'm trying to push my clients, honestly. They don't really understand it yet. They're like, yeah, building a community, sure, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the future of retaining, increasing LTV, and really just also increasing once again, going back to enterprise value.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
What are private equity firms looking for? They're looking for subscribers, community, right? That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. And to give an example as well, there's a supplement brand called Obvi. Shout out to those guys. They have a community of 80,000 members in Facebook, in a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And they said like it's amazing for getting ideas for new products. Polls like what flavors do you want? Or if you're selling clothing, apparel, like what colors, designs, and customers really feel like they're involved in building the brand with you. And that's not something they're going to get when they, with Nike or
Absolutely.
Adidas. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Guess what? When you're launching a product, if you have an idea for a product, you can pretty much collect $50,000, $100,000 cash in 5 days, probably, if you have a good community, before you even start the production of the product. So you can do pre-orders and start collecting cash up front, right? Invest and actually then launch the product, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if you have anything else to add about community.
No, not on community. I think covered there.
I think we covered pretty much, 5 minutes.
What was the last one? Last topic?
Mm-hmm.
The last topic?
That's the last topic, community. 5 more minutes. Yeah, I think we're good. You want to add something else? It's good that we're interrupting Oli here now.
No, I think it's good. Yeah.
Let's just end it off then. Cool. So we're probably going to upload this on YouTube. Hopefully this was a valuable podcast. Thank you, Jordan, for taking the time to spend some time with me. But yeah, just let us know in the comments, I guess, right? You're going to upload this on YouTube.
Yep.
I'm going to do the same. Just let us know some ideas and some video ideas that you just have for us so that we can just maybe go ahead and do this once a week or every Saturday, right?
Exactly. And also let us know if there's anything today that you want us to go deeper on, because I think we could talk about each of these topics for a lot longer. Let us know if there's anything from today that you want us to go deeper on, and let us know other things that you want us to talk about in the agency, from the brand owner point of view, as an agency owner point of view, there's a lot for us to talk about. So,
amazing.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Let's end it off and see you in the next one.
Bye.